Back-to-school savings are officially in session at Tanger Outlets. Shop tax-free August 2nd through 6th and save up to 70% off the latest school styles. The best of apparel, footwear, accessories, and more. Save at Nike Factory Store, American Eagle, Gap Outlet, Crocs, Under Armour, Banana Republic Factory, and hundreds more. There's always something happening. Discover the latest fun and events all season long. Tanger Outlets, your savings destination.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Hey y'all, this is another episode of Archaeoanimals, the podcast all about zooarchaeology. This is episode 1, Zooarchaeology 101, and today we'll be talking about what zooarchaeology is, what we do as zooarchaeologists, and what our favorite things and least favorite things are about zooarchaeology. Alright, hi y'all, it's Alex here, and with me, as always, is...
Hello, Simona.
So today we're all just going to talk about what zooarchaeology is, just for some of y'all who don't know what that is. Simona, what's the best way you think to explain this to the folks out there?
Well, I think as I mentioned, like in the previous episode, the way I like to look at it is the sort of, give me the bones of the dead animals and I'll tell you more about the dead people. But I guess anyway, what it boils down to, like, it is sort of what it says on the tins, quite literally the study of animal remains from archaeological sites.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just looking at dead animals rather than dead people, because I don't know about you, but I think human bones are really hard to look at.
Yeah, just like we leave the people out and we just rummage through the dead people's rubbish instead.
Yeah, but we still learn about the dead people. We just mostly look at the dead animals, which are usually cooler, let's be real.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing, 'cause I think, like, animal bones were not really looked into as much sort of before the 70s when sort of zooarchaeology exploded as a discipline. I think before not much attention was paid to animal bones, and now is slowly becoming more and more established how zooarchaeology is actually a fundamental tool in reconstructing the lives of ancient populations.
Like you said, like by the 1970s, it started become more of a discipline. But like even now, I don't know about you, but like I still see archaeologists who like can't be bothered with animal bones. Like those go in the spoil heap type stuff, you know?
Oh, I know I've had my fair share of people moaning, be like, "Oh, I'll just find an animal bone. No one cares."
But it's so
they're like,
important.
actually, you can learn so much about it.
Yeah, don't keep tossing them. Do you know what you toss? Pottery and shells, because I also don't really care for mollusks. But other than that, you should look at everything else.
Because, I mean, the cool thing about zooarchaeology is actually it really does help you reconstruct the life of a population, because they can tell you, like, not only like the given sort of what they ate, you can find out how they transported goods and people, what their economy was based on, even like the environment they lived in certain cases. And well, I guess if you're really, really, really lucky, the culture and belief system, if you're lucky.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's like coming more and more in vogue with zooarchaeology these days, is that I think when zooarchaeology first started, we were really looking at, economy systems, hierarchies, things like that, and now we're pushing more into like social implications and cultural implications.
Well, because I think ritual has been a scary word for the past few decades, because it's only now that sort of is becoming there's more a systematic approach of studying ritual instead of just tossing it there as an interpretation. Like, I don't really know what it is. Oh, it's ritual. It'll do.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, like, I will say I'm one of those people. When I was in my undergrad, I would write ritual on exams when I forgot what certain artifacts were used for. But I am also someone who studies ritual with zooarchaeology now, so,
I guess it depends on what you look into, because, like, every person will have I find the definition of ritual is very subjective depending on whom you ask.
Yeah, I guess so. And like, I mean, my specialty is like later prehistoric. So like in the Iron Age, you kind of see more of like, there's no like distinction between ritual and like everyday. Do you know what I mean?
But you do find that so the ritual and domestic spheres are a lot more intertwined. the more you
Yeah.
sort of go back in time.
Basically what my flat looks like, covered in crystals and cool new age stuff, you know.
It's all
Same thing.
ritual.
It's all ritual. Also, I just really like crystals. I think they're cute and shiny.
Well, think of the time when they're going to excavate our sewers and find all the pennies and the coins in there. Be like, oh, there must have been a ritual space of like some sort of like practice.
I mean, yeah, you know, I hoard money all the time, and I like to call that ritual, also known as being broke, really. But you know, they
Like, I
can
don't know, bottle caps by a bonfire? Maybe some sort of rite of passage for like the youth that become men?
probably. That sounds now. It just sounds like you're making fun of my PhD right now, because that's exactly what I'm writing down. So I think we kind of covered what zooarchaeologists do, more or less. We just stare deeply into the sockets of dead animals, huh?
Well, essentially, because I can't speak as a zooarchaeologist, because of course I'm not a zooarchaeologist professionally. I'm working commercial archaeology, and I've read a fair amount of on zooarchaeology, but I don't practice it at the moment, so I can only speak from a fieldwork point of view and more generally what zooarchaeologists do. So it's essentially all, again, boils down to, like, give them dead animals, they'll tell you more about the dead people. So, I mean, what's a good way to boil it down? Okay, so you have your fieldwork project, and of course you collect your animal bone, and then, you know, that goes back to the post-excavation department. It gets nicely cleaned and labelled by context and all that, and then a zooarchaeologist will stare at it in confusion for a long, long time, and then in the end, you know, it'll get ID'd, so analysis will be done on the remains, and then they'll draft a very pretty report with all their findings. I guess is essentially what it boils down to.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, that's basically, I mean, technically I'm not a professional zooarchaeologist because I'm still a baby PhD student. But I mean, that's my day to day, basically. I get a bag of bones dropped on my desk, and then they're like, deal with that, Alex. And I'm like, oh, okay. And of course, they never wash it, so I have to wash it.
Oh.
Yeah. Archaeologists do not give zooarchaeologists the kind of respect that we need. And this is what the whole podcast is about.
Like, please give us clean bone.
Yeah, and as for becoming a zooarchaeologist, which is surprisingly something I've been asked by other people, is like, you know, how do you get into zooarchaeology? I mean, it's just kind of something you pick up along the way as a specialty. I mean, you might be able to speak more about this because you kind of almost do it on the side, even though I'd say you're more of a zooarchaeologist than I am.
Oh, in my case, it was literally just a case of persevere, just keep on persevering. Because with me, I almost had to retrain entirely because I've got degrees in weird and wonderful subjects. Because I've done, like, you name something, I've tried it. Because I think, I guess, because of the conception that sort of the public has about the archaeologists and what they do, and having that perception myself a couple of years ago, I never thought that was a viable career option. So it's something I always put to the one side as a passion I've always had, but said I can't really do anything with it, so there's no point, until I actually found out much later on that it was actually something that I could do. So I started off like just doing as many courses as I could. There's a fair few like distance learning opportunities and MOOCs, which is like massive open online courses, which are completely free for you to do. And I think there is one on osteoarchaeology, like for human osteology, not quite for animals, but it does teach you the basic principles and you can sort of like go along from there. And I've just like applied for jobs until I got a job as an archaeologist and then keep doing courses and retraining entirely. And I've been working in the field for 3 years now, doing SciComm on Twitter, and well, I guess the podcast to the side now, and just keep on persevering. Because same like to teach myself animal bone, of course, I had to invest in an amount of books, which usually academic books don't tend to be very cheap. So there was a lot of saving up involved, but I've also invested in a reference collection because I find that that's the best way to learn and how to identify animal bone, because it's just, you can read about it all you want, but it's not the same as looking at it, because it's something that I find myself with flint. I keep reading about flint, but I still know nothing about flint. If I was to find some, I would not be able for the life of me to tell you whether that's worked.
Oh God, same, yeah.
I don't encounter flint in my day-to-day work, so I'm lost. It's just something like...
Yeah, anything that's not an animal bone, I'm just like, I don't know what that is at all. It could be like a literal gun or something, like a sword, and I'd be like, I don't know what that is at all. It's not an animal.
It's just, I know I've got an understanding of sort of like the various finds that you have, although that's mostly for the Roman period, because in archaeology in Britain you do tend to find Roman stuff more than anything. Like, let's face it, sort of my people went everywhere and stayed here for a wee while. They just won't go. I escaped my home country, and again, the Romans just keep following me wherever I go. Damn.
Think of it this way, though. The Romans basically gave you a job.
I suppose, isn't it? I'm gonna say, but yeah, just I don't know, maybe like go on walks, and like you can find a lot of like sort of bones in the woods, or like sheep and deer, or not. Just use them, of course. Make sure you have permission to actually grab it, and
Yeah, I think that's an episode for another day of just going.
That's like, can of worms. So sort of the ethics and legislation of keeping animal remains with the different tangent. But yeah, essentially just persevere and keep going at it, like until something happens.
Well, there's definitely, I will say that sometimes you can find, like, I know, like Sheffield. For those of you in the UK, University of Sheffield does like zooarchaeology short courses. So if you're interested in that, that might be something good to do. You can find short courses probably in most places, most countries at least, specifically on zooarchaeology. And I think even like zooarchaeology adjacent subjects might be a good way to kind of get into it, like just osteology in general, zoology in general. I mean, that's kind of the resources I use when I started getting into it more.
That's the thing, because it's sort of like zooarchaeology in itself is a bit of a weird mix, because you have the zoology aspect of it. You've got a fair bit of anthropology thrown in there.
Yeah.
And it's a nice mishmash of all the things I like.
Yeah, same. And it's also just exciting to look at different animals. I think that's the coolest thing, is that you get like a nice breadth of different types of animals that you get to deal with in comparison to, say, just doing human osteology. Not to call out the human osteologists out there. Y'all do good work. But zooarchaeology is more exciting. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Divisive episode.
Although usually I tend to be the only one who finds it exciting. So I'll be like, I found this like species X. That's not very common. And everyone's like, meh.
Yeah, we're in that weird in-between part, I think, where like we're not finding human bones, which is exciting for most people, and we're not finding dinosaurs, which is exciting for everyone else.
Oh, I get that, like every time.
Yeah, do you find dinosaur bones? No, I wish sometimes, because I'm sick of finding sheep and fish, to be honest.
Oh, fish.
Oh, fish.
Again, other episode. Fish.
If anyone listened to the episode of Women Archaeology I did, I hate fish so much.
I mean, like, fair play, chapeau to all the ones who focus on fish and study fish, because that stuff's incredibly important, but just me, no.
You are the strongest people on this planet, those of you that specifically study fish bones.
Yes.
See, like, I would love to, that's something that, like, I think we need to, like, talk to one of them to find out, like, how, like, it's one thing to how to become a zooarchaeologist, but how do you specifically get into fish bones? Because that is, I would run away from it, so, and I constantly run away from it, so, but yeah, I think those are the best tips for anyone out there who wants to get into zooarchaeology. It'll be a little bit of kind of finding your own way, doing your own research. But once you do that, I mean, there's plenty of resources on the internet. Just like boneid.net is a great resource for references. Do you have any other references you can think of from the websites and stuff?
I've got one for fish, because I think in the Department of Archaeology of Nottingham University, they've got quite a nice fish database thing. So if you do want to get into fish, well, one, I admire you. Two, that check them out.
And also, you know what? Simona's Twitter is a great resource for zooarchaeology as well. She has so many good reference photos on there. We have a hashtag archaeoanimals that other archaeologists, zooarchaeologists specifically, are adding to. So if anyone out there is really interested, definitely take a look at that. More or less.
But to wrap it up, essentially, what zooarchaeologists do, they just stare at bones of dead animals, calculate all sorts of interesting thing that, I don't know, like age, sex, time of death, well, not time of death quite, more like season of death or kill off age.
I wish time of death. I'd love that if it was just like printed on text.
It's just like 32 BC at 1532.
Awesome. We don't have to spend money on carbon-14 dating.
No, well, I guess you might have to, depending.
I mean.
On the side, but that tends to fall into the more fancy pants side of analysis that I don't know too much about. So anything like with C14 or isotope or DNA, I mean, I wish, but it's something that doesn't really tend to happen in the commercial sector unless there's something really exciting that calls for it.
Yeah, I mean, I
think it's something more for the academic side.
Something more I can talk about when we get to it. But I think already we've got some pretty good information. Hopefully you out there kind of know what a zooarchaeologist is. If not, sorry, I guess. But you'll figure it out eventually if you keep listening on, I think. I don't know about you. But so after this short break that we're about to have, we'll be talking a little bit more about what animal bones can specifically tell us in the past, which is, short answer, a lot. You'd be surprised how much you can find out just from animal bones. I think we got into a little bit during this segment, but there's so much you can learn. Maybe too much.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Back-to-school savings are officially in session at Tanger Outlets. Shop tax-free August 2nd through 6th and save up to 70% off the latest school styles. The best of apparel, footwear, accessories, and more. Save at Nike Factory Store, American Eagle, Gap Outlet, Crocs, Under Armour, Banana Republic Factory, and hundreds more. There's always something happening. Discover the latest fun and events all season long. Tanger Outlets, your savings destination.
Hi, and welcome back to the first episode of Archaeoanimals. We're talking all about zooarchaeology and what it is. And
tangents.
And always tangents. I mean, this really should be the Archaeoanimals/tangent podcast, but that's a mouthful. When we start making t-shirts, because we will have t-shirts,
and mugs, or maybe shower curtains.
Man, we should get shower curtains for all 2 people listening to this. One of them being my mom. Anyway. And
my mother.
Our moms. So, so let's talk a little bit more about what we actually learn about. Because, we talked about in the first segment that, we look at dead animals, of course. We find stuff about the humans that may have lived with these animals just by looking at the animals. But, specifically what animal bones can tell us about the past. So, you have probably more experience with, stuff like aging and sexing as someone as someone who works more, because the way I always see it is I feel like you have more experience with that kind of stuff, and I can probably speak more to the sciencey type of stuff with fancy university equipment that I get to handle as a PhD student.
Well, I guess as we discussed in the first segment a little bit, essentially, there's a plethora of things that animal bones can tell us. So, usually what that gets used for is to look at how animals were exploited in the past. So, of course, that gives you all sorts of inference about how ancient people lived, what they ate, what their economy was based on, how they transported stuff, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things about how they used to live. So usually I think like the things that we look at, of course, when you get your nice bag of bones, that's hopefully clean from the fieldwork stage of the project. Of course, the first thing that you're going to have to do is to ID that fragment confidently.
Confidently. Sorry, yeah, confidently. Put that in quotation marks for sure.
Well, because I think, of course, not all of the fragments which were collected in the field will retain the sufficient characteristics to, that will allow you to ID it confidently. As in, do not expect a nice, fancy, complete bone. Although you do get those sometimes, but it's mostly tiny little bits of shaft that could have come from just anything under the sun. So I guess a good piece of advice for that is that if you're not 100% sure, just avoid biasing your sample. Just take a little step back. So if you're unsure about species, just go with genus. If you're unsure about genus, just, small, medium, large mammal and leave it at that. Because, the way I see it, hand-collected bone is biased in itself as it is, because, of course, you will only receive the bones that the excavator himself or herself have noticed and picked up. And, of course, the living assemblage is quite different from the death assemblage. So in a way, it's sort of biased in itself from the get-go. So you want to avoid sort of muddling the waters for yourself further. So if you're not sure, just leave it on the one side. And I guess in terms of ID, you mostly look at the morphology for the most part, although there are tools such as biometry, which may be needed for slightly tougher ID. So, for example, sheep and goat, which I'm sure we'll get to soon enough, and perhaps Alex can
the great
mention a little bit more about biometry than me.
Yeah, well, actually, I was just going to ask you, what's your favorite thing to get when someone's like, here's a bag of faunal bones, and you open it up, and it's like stuff that isn't faunal bones? Like, personally, for me, one of my favorite things was straight up a shell, like just a shell. Like a perfect looking shell, like so shell looking. Like, do you know how shell looking I'm talking about? Like Little Mermaid, like that shell. And I remember just like picking up, being like,
oh, that or the devil's toenails. That's like Griffey, the sort of. I'm gonna shot myself in the foot. I'm gonna go with Cretaceous. I'm sure they're not from the Cretaceous, but not archaeological.
Devil's toenails? What?
Oh, I think that's what they're called in Britain. So this bivalve mollusk.
Okay.
The actual name of it is Griffey.
Y'all are weird. You guys have
if you take a little walk on a field in Britain, you'll find it's plastered with them.
Really? Yeah. Okay, that is.
Yeah, I think in folklore they're known as devil's toenails.
Okay. Yeah, you guys...
Because I guess they sort of look like a toenail, just a very gross toenail.
Like, yeah, the stereotype is real. You guys have weird fantasy names for everything, huh?
Don't look at me, I'm not British.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
I've just been here for a while, sort of growing mould in a corner.
You've been here longer than me, so you're more British.
Just never left.
True. But yeah, so yeah, aging and sexing are two probably basic things that you can do when you first get animal bones, and you've identified them by species and by element or by what bone it was in the body. So aging and sexing can be difficult because they are specific to different types of bones, aren't they? Like there are certain bones that you can use to tell the age. There's certain bones that you can use to tell the sex of the animal.
And of course, some bones are more reliable than others, and the methods tend to be very species specific.
Yeah, I mean, my binder of recording information is so huge at this point. It's probably longer than my actual PhD dissertation is going to be.
Sorry, I've just got loads of sort of laminated sheets of all the aging methods and sort of plastered in my study. Well, they're not plastered in my study at the moment because I've just moved houses in my study. It's just boxes. But normally you just have aging, sexing methods just plastered everywhere in front of my desk. So I just don't lose sight of it because it's something you get a knack for it with time, but you need to get into the habit of it. So you'll have to check because of course studies have been done. So for example, for aging, one of the two most commonly used methods is epiphyseal fusion.
Yeah, that's what I usually
and
use.
For that, like studies, of course, you'll know about it. Like for those who don't know, I mean, studies have been carried out to establish when the bones fuse, like at what stages do they fuse in different mammals. So that it's very species specific and very much element specific. So you can see which ones fuse earlier, which ones fuse later, and at what age. So there's a lot of muscle memory.
Yeah.
Well, not muscle memory. There's a lot of memory involved.
There's a lot of bone memory, I guess, though. But yeah, and then we can go on to, other things that we can learn just by looking by eye is also pathology, which unfortunately isn't really a thing that has much research on in zooarchaeology, at least in comparison to human osteology. So that can be kind of a pain for us.
Because in a way, like pathology in itself is quite difficult because in a way, of course, like there's no way, like there's a lot of diseases that will just not leave a trace on the bone. And usually when it gets to the stage where it leaves a mark on the bone, is usually it must have gone to a certain stage, a sort of chronic infection for it to actually have modified the bone. And cause I guess more studies have been done with humans, but with animals really not so much. I mean, there's a fair few like interesting books and things coming out in the last couple of years, which I've enjoyed reading.
But yeah, I think the problem is that I think there's more doctors who have gone into human osteology/archaeology than veterinarians have gone into zooarchaeology, which is a shame. You guys should join us. If you're a veterinarian out there and you're bored of your life, please become a zooarchaeologist, because I'm sick and tired of not knowing all the pathologies that I find.
Well, I guess with humans there'll be more of a sample.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not more of a sample per se, but there would have been more of a record. So, say if you have medical, so a university or a museum has a human sort of osteology medical collection, the chances are there might be more of a record of sort of like known pathologies that the person would have suffered during life. It'll be a lot easier to sort of identify that in the archaeological record. As in, like, maybe it's not so much the case with animals.
Yeah, probably. But, when you can find pathologies, it can tell you about maybe how the animal died, how if life was a bit harder for them because of certain illnesses or, disabilities. So, yeah, it's something you can also extrapolate a lot of information from. And now I think the biggest one that we need to hit right now is taphonomy, because that is huge.
Well, I think we can do about 20 episodes about taphonomy and still not be quite done with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my PhD is on taphonomy, and I still feel like I'm not going to have enough time to talk about all of it in my PhD, which will be, I think, 1 billion pages from what I can tell from other PhD students. So,
no, okay. What we could boil it down to is just bone modification, whether it's been modified by the soil, by another animal gnawing on the bone, or human modification if it's been turned into tools, if it's been cooked or prepared, portioned, then we'll be able to see that in our assemblage.
I think that's where, the human part comes in, where you can look at an animal and still kind of get information about the humans that may have lived on whatever site you're working on, is when it goes to anthropogenic or human-made modifications, like you said, butchery, working them into tools, things like that,
Well, even it could actually tell you something about other animals as well. So, like, say in your assemblage, you get a lot of cattle bones that actually have tooth marks that you managed to narrow down to dog, even though you've not found any dogs on your archaeological project. You know there was a dog around somewhere going around and gnawing on people's stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, I always love finding gnawing. I don't know why. I think it's great, especially dog gnawing, because they get like all shiny from all the drool.
Ah, no, it's very nice. And, of course...
And also disgusting, but nice.
It's all right. I'm sort of like, I'm doing that experimentally because I'm just giving a load of like pig bones to my dog and she's having a whale of a time with them. So I'm going to like pick them up in a fair few like months or a year's time and see like what stage the bone has got to.
Yeah, can I borrow your dog actually for some experimental archaeology, please? Thank you.
Sure, anytime.
Just send her over, it's fine.
As a little tangent, she covers her bones with socks to cache them.
Oh, that's so good. Why aren't we just doing a dog podcast?
Well, there will be an episode on dogs, so I guess much like
But those are
episode we had
dead dogs. They're dead though, which are cool, but
Still
I do love a. Yeah, they are still dogs, but yeah, taphonomy in itself is a huge can of worms. It technically covers like everything that we've talked about, and we'll definitely be doing a future episode or episodes, I guess, covering that. But I'm trying to think anything else that the animal bones can tell us.
Yeah, pathology, taphonomy, age, sex. Oh, I guess like an interesting sort of in terms of looking at how the animals were exploited. If we go back to the aging method, there's one very interesting thing that it can tell you in terms of the kill-off pattern. Because of course, once you get the kill-off pattern, you get inference of how the animals were exploited and what products the ancient peoples were trying to get out of them. So now, say for example, in your assemblage, you find you got a load of cow, and you find that they're mostly adults or elderly. Then you could perhaps argue that they were used as working animals, perhaps for traction, and sort of things like that. So looking at sort of the demographics of a population through aging could also be very interesting, so to show you what sort of products they were being exploited for and things like that.
Yeah, no, and
which is the technical term, things like that.
So we could also, if we can talk a bit more about, science and zooarchaeology, how we are having more and more advances in science that make doing analysis a little bit easier, I guess, in some way. Maybe this is more on my end, but isotopes, stable isotopes has become, I don't know if you've seen this, it's very trendy among zooarchaeologists these days, that and aDNA.
Oh, yes. I mean,
stuff that I don't really understand. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, is that it's just keeping up with science and advances in the kind of technologies we have. But, isotopes is great, and it's something that actually can do. I'm smart enough to do that, or at least trained enough to do that. But that tells you, depending on what isotope you use to analyze, it could be carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, strontium, I think that's it. You can look at diet, you can look at movement, what regions are these animals going through, seasonality, things like that. And yeah, aDNA is this huge thing now, which I don't understand at all, so I won't even bother to try to explain it. We're going to have to get a good guest to talk about that, I think.
Oh, no, absolutely.
It's super interesting, though. It's just all mumbo jumbo to me, to be honest.
Okay, so shall we pause for the third segment? Or did you have anything to add?
I think that's it. But yeah, so I think we've covered most of the things that we'll have that we can do with animal bones, and yeah.
The Archaeology Podcast Network has partnered with TeePublic to bring you some awesome gear that looks good, promotes archaeology, and puts a few pennies in our pockets so you can get free podcasts. Check out our designs at arcpodnet.com/shop. That's arcpodnet.com/shop. Want some all-weather vinyl stickers for your water bottle, clipboard, or whatever else? Check out our show stickers at arcpodnet.com/stickers, and we'll ship you some today. That's arcpodnet.com/stickers. Now back to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the first episode of Archaeoanimals. We're talking about zooarchaeology, everything about it. Well, not everything, but most things about it. And this time around, I think we're going to get a little personal and talk about, how we got into zooarchaeology. So I think you kind of talked about it a bit when we first started our podcast, Simona.
Yeah, just I stumbled upon zooarchaeology, and I'm just sort of bumbling along, trying to get into the field, slowly but surely.
I think that's everyone anywhere. We're just all bumbling along, trying to make our way through life.
Essentially, yeah. What about yourself?
Okay, so my story is probably more funny because, so I did my undergrad in classical archaeology, and halfway through it, I realized I hated classical archaeology because pottery and statues and all that stuff is really boring to me, especially architecture. Oh my God. I had a class, like a Greek archaeology class, where we read the most boring book I've ever read in my life about the architecture of bathhouses. And it got like into the nitty gritty of like angles. And I was like, my God, someone wrote this down with their hands.
Someone.
It was like chapter 1. This is the like right angles used in bathhouses, and I was just like, if this is what archaeology is, I hate it. It was not my thing. But then I went and did some excavation, and I worked a lot with animal bones. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I was, going to do my master's somewhere, and I was thinking about doing it at the same institution, Hunter College, that I did my undergrad, but I knew that their master's and PhD programs kind of focus more on zooarchaeology, and I'm like, I don't know if I really like it, and I don't want to hole myself into like a corner or whatever, so I'll just move across an ocean to England and, try out archaeological sciences. And look at me now. I've taken out hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just to do the thing that I could have just stayed home and have done.
Don't we all?
Yeah, no, it's like, that's the greatest irony of my life is just like, I blew $200,000 basically to do something that I could have just done in New York. But honestly, I think...
Oh, it's a cultural experience.
Yeah, and you know what? I think... I don't want to speak for every American institution, but I feel like, at least where I was, you really focus more on, like, not even theory, but, like, it was like art history almost. And I think they hit more on the sciences in this country. So I definitely...
I guess it very much depends on what program you go for, and because, like, some universities are more sort of science-focused than others.
Mm-hmm. Well, not even science. I think like just practicality. Like in a lot of places in America, you can graduate with your archaeology degree and never have ever excavated at all. Like not even like done a little bit of handling of anything, which is wild.
Well, I guess even in this country, I think they're trying to bring it into sort of mandatory field work, because even here, like it's more and more common, but I'm not sure whether it's actually sort of mandatory for you to do field work. I mean, most people tend to. Mm-hmm. But it tends to be, there's an issue because there's quite a gap between research archaeology and commercial archaeology.
Yeah.
So usually there's still some refinement that needs doing, because the way we work in the commercial sector, it's quite different from the research sector.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still I think that what they're also bringing university, they're actually bringing commercial archaeology work experiences for people to actually see whether that's the stuff that they will be into. Because maybe you study archaeology for you spend 3-4 years of your life and a lot of money, and then you find yourself at the bottom of a well on the 20th of December and it's like -3 and you're covered in mud, and you're like, every choice I've made in my life has led to this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the University of Bradford, we have I think they have mandatory field work, and they also have placement years for archaeology students, which I really wish I had as an undergrad. But I'm doing okay, kind of just trying things out and stuff. But now I'm really into zooarchaeology. Obviously, you'd hope so, because I'm hosting a zooarchaeology podcast. But yeah, let's. I
guess how we got an interest in it before. I guess you talked a bit about it. Sort of why zooarchaeology out of all things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also am I don't know about you, but I'm a doer. You know how there's the different types of learning. I have to really do something before I kind of get it. So working on site with animal bones and the thrill of finding a whole cow under the foundation of a house really got me into oh, this is actually really cool, and I think I can actually be kind of good at this thing. Really helped me get into it.
Yeah, because I think for me, it was sort of a best of both worlds sort of thing. Well, not necessarily best of both worlds, but a nice medium. Because I think with me, I owe my passion to archaeology, sort of for archaeology, to my mum. Also, she used to read me about archaeology at bedtime.
Aww.
Or a paleoanthropology and the leaky family and all that. That was my bedtime story. Hi, Mum. While sort of like, thanks to my dad, I've got this sort of relentless passion for the natural world and animals, and just I'm a bit of a tree hugger myself. So like ever since I was a child, I was like, I want to be a vet. I mean, I know I changed my mind. I want to be an archaeologist, and I'll just keep oscillating back and forth until like, yeah, I am an archaeologist and I'm interested in dead animals. So it's win-win-ish.
You have such a nicer story than I do. Like, yeah, I just kind of fell into it. I mean, when I was in high school, I was actually aiming to go into fashion design. Look at me now. The most unfashionable person.
Animal bone.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, let's keep talking about this. What do you think would you say is your favorite thing about zooarchaeology? Like, as someone who kind of practices it, I guess, even if you're not a professional one, you're still a zooarchaeologist to me, in my heart.
Oh, thank you. I guess it'll be the sort of the haha.
Oh,
moment.
yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking too. It's because like zooarchaeology is like a puzzle. I mean, all archaeology is like a puzzle, but there's something about zooarchaeology, I think, because we really have to get into the whole like, what species is this? What kind of bone is this? That when it all clicks, it's so satisfying.
From a fieldwork point of view, even like if it's something, I don't know, like a pathology, which in my experience is not something that's terribly common to find. But for example, if you find, I don't know, like signs of spavin, just for those who don't know, is an infectious disease, well, inflammatory disease that can affect cattle if they're used for traction. So you'll find the sort of metatarsals and metatarsal and tarsals that sort of get fused together because of like the inflammation like caused by repetitive traction.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's usually a good indicator that that particular cow was used as a working animal. And then, like, I don't know, you're digging a ditch and you find something like that, and you feel like, oh, this looks weird and painful. What is it? Oh, haha, that's famine. Nothing. Or it could be just something much sillier than that, and you just find a bone of a species that you don't usually find. So with me, if you find anything that's sort of cat-related, because cats are so rare in the archaeological record, if anyone says, like, even softly that they found a cat, you'll hear me scream from 3 miles away. And,
oh, that's the noise I've been hearing.
oh. Yeah, if you hear there's something weird, like wailing, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like how I feel too. Like even the small things. Like the other day I was looking at bones, and there was this one bone I was just struggling so hard to figure out what it was. And then I like turned it over and then realized it was like a bird scapula. I was like, oh, huh. Yeah, just looking at it the wrong way. But you know, even those kind of moments are great, and it's also good for me because I don't know how to do like Sudoku or anything, so this is as close as I get.
Yeah, but it's a nice, like, mind puzzle. In a way, it's sort of like not quite find a difference, but it's like, especially if you've got a reference collection, like you've got your partial bone. It's like, okay, like that kind of looks like dog.
Yeah, like matching basically, which is pretty satisfying once you're like, I found it. It's, you know, whatever.
Bye. Or not found.
That's how I feel like all the time. But I mean, not to get negative, but we can turn it into what's your least favorite thing about zooarchaeology, which I mean, I talk about a lot because I'm by nature a very negative person.
I suspect some pigs are coming our way.
Like, it's not even just pig teeth, okay? Listeners at home, you're gonna learn that I really don't like pig teeth. I'll probably mention it in every episode, but like, it's not just pig teeth. I think teeth in general kind of skeeve me out because with animals, they get so worn. It's just, ugh, it's so gross.
Oh, I love teeth.
I mean, they're great because they're so easy to ID, but like, they're also kind of gross looking.
Oh, because I guess like you're more likely to find teeth with pathology. For them both, because like teeth preserve so well. So anyway, I love teeth. It's more like you just fish. No, don't give me any fish. It's important. It's great that people do it, but no. Yeah,
speaking of someone who has done fish, it's Yeah, it's awful. I mean, they're very important. Let's always put that as a disclaimer. Fish are animals too, and they're very important. That said,
that should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, fish are important too. But that said, they were put here on this earth by the devil to ruin my life specifically, because God forbid I get sent a bag full of fish bones and then I'll cry for like
old ribs.
Oof, don't even get ribs. Ribs are the worst. That's the one I'm like, well, I'm probably just gonna not be able to ID the species.
Look, you pretty much can't, can you?
There's some. I mean, like pig ribs, I think are a little bit more distinct, and like obviously if they're pretty small, I think you can probably narrow it down a bit.
Yeah, but you're like small mammal, medium-sized mammal.
I definitely get that. Like I do hate that sometimes when you get down to it and you're just like, I guess I can just ID it to medium-sized animal.
Well, that's all you can do. Unless someone comes up with a beautiful sort of method to ID ribs, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, that is actually, if we're going to put in more requests, can someone please find a better way to ID ribs, because my brain hurts constantly.
It's a lot of chin scratching.
Yeah, also I feel that way about vertebrae too sometimes. I'm not very good with vertebrae. Just small bones.
I'm okay with sort of the atlas and axis, maybe?
Yeah, that. Basically that. But anything else, I'm just like I know what it is, which is nice. I can be like, that's a vertebrae. But I mean, I think that's where it begins and ends, more or less.
Yeah, because I can sort of identify where in the spine it is.
It's in the spine.
Whether it's sort of like cervical, thoracic, or lumbar, or sort of caudal, whatever the way you pronounce that in English.
Caudal.
The tail vertebrae.
Yeah, it's weird. These are words that I've never said out loud to another human being, so...
No, I don't think I have either. Because I keep reading about it, and of course not being a native speaker, like some things I'll just probably keep saying wrong until the end of time. It took me 7 years to find out that it's radiator, not radiator.
I think I say radiator, but that might be just an accent thing.
I don't know, I just kept saying radiator until someone pointed it out to me like 2 years ago, like, do you realise it's radiator, right? And I was like, oh.
I can slightly beat you on that, because I used to say self-deprecating. I used to say self-depreciating for the longest time until my friend literally took me aside and went, Alex, it's not self-depreciating, it's self-deprecating. And my whole world changed. It was amazing. I'll never have that feeling again. But yeah, off topic a bit. But I mean, yeah. So just kind of wrapping up this episode, our first episode. Any tips you have for anyone else who is aspiring zooarchaeologist, just beginning zooarchaeologist?
As I said, I can't stress that enough. Just persevere. Just keep going.
Yeah, and talk to other zooarchaeologists. Twitter may be a hellhole, but I think the zooarchaeology community there is pretty decent. I mean, I'm in there, so it can't be great, but, it's all right.
Well, I think in a way, sort of science Twitter itself is a great way to sort of like connect people, and because unlike other social network, is more content-based, more than a popularity contest. So you tend to you look at people that post stuff that interests you, not because they're your second cousin by your mother's side, like Facebook sort of thing. So you kind of...
Yeah, no, definitely. If there's any aspiring zooarchaeologists out there, like I said, we occasionally, me and Simona both use the hashtag archaeoanimals, which is by chance the name of our podcast as well. And it's, a place that we kind of want to be a place where zooarchaeologists can converse with each other easily, right?
Yeah, and also there's a lot of sort of description photos, including my cat and dog, which is always a plus.
All right, so I think that does it for our first episode. I want to congratulate us for getting through it without dying. I think that's a step in the right direction.
And my laptop hasn't exploded.
Yeah, that's good too, which I think that goes into the dying thing, because if your laptop exploded, I assume you would die. But just want to point out that our next episode coming out will be about farms, all about farms, domestic animals, more about farms. We're all going to sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm and
Scratching.
yeah, basically. But yeah. Oh, yes, of course. But yeah, if you have any questions for us specifically about farm animals and domestic animals in archaeology, or if you just have a general question about zooarchaeology, use the hashtag archaeoanimals and we'll probably find it and we'll answer it next episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does it, I think, for this episode of Archaeoanimals. I've been your host, Alex.
And I've been Simona.
Who is another host. I'm just going to point that out.
I tried.
Not just some random person who showed up and started talking.
Oh, why not? Oh.
I mean, you can be. We can change it. But yeah, tune in next time. And that's about it.
Thank you for listening to Archaeoanimals. Please subscribe and rate the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. You can find us on Twitter at Archaeoanimals. Also, the views expressed on the podcast are those of ourselves, the hosts and guests, and do not necessarily represent those of our institution, employers, and the Archaeology Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.
This show is produced and recorded by the Archaeology Podcast Network, Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle, in Reno, Nevada, at the Reno Collective.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks again for listening to this episode and for supporting the Archaeology Podcast Network. If you want these shows to keep going, consider becoming a member for just $7.99 US a month. That's cheaper than a venti quad eggnog latte. Go to archpodnet.com/members for more info.